Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, a climatologist for NRCC tells us more about La Niña and how it affects our weather. Then we speak with a rep from the New York Community Trust along with a rep from Urban Health Plan to talk about their partnership where they help serve the people of the Bronx. After that, the Director of Adult Services of KHCC tells us about their efforts to help support those in need during the winter and holiday season. And finally, the State Director of AARP New York shares details on how they're helping address New York sidewalk safety. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, December 3rd. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. La Niña is a weather pattern that affects global climate and weather systems. Today we are joined virtually by Jessica Spaccio, a climatologist for Northeast Regional Climate Center, who will go into details about La Niña, what it is, and how it affects our weather. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Now, I think this is super interesting because I've never actually heard about this before. So, can you tell me a little bit more about La Nina and how it is actually affecting our weather?
Sure, yeah. So, what a La Nina is it's when we get the sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific are cooler than normal, and this has to last for a 3 month average before it's actually classified as a La Nina. And basically, when that happens, it changes. The kind of the rainfall patterns in the Pacific as well as global circulation patterns.
And how does this differ from El Nino?
Sure. So an El Nino is the opposite. So instead of a cooling of the equatorial sea surface temperatures, the El Nino is a warming of those temperatures. So it basically kind of causes an opposite effect to have with the rainfall and also affects the global patterns as well.
Now, how often do La Nina events occur and how long do they typically last?
Sure, they occur every 2 to 3 years, and they'll last usually maybe 1 to 2 years. And typically, they're kind of will kind of flare up seasonally. So even if it lasts an entire year, it's normally not strong for the entire year. And a lot of times we flip flop. So we'll have a La Nina for a year or two, and then maybe we'll go and so neutral, which is either neither La Nina nor El Nino, and then we'll go back to an El Nino. So it kind of goes back and forth within this pattern.
Now, what are the primary global weather patterns associated with La Nina?
Sure. So when we get these cooler ocean temperatures, it causes a lot of kind of storminess in the Western Pacific, where the warmer temperatures kind of get over to that westward side, and so that will change the patterns. We'll get a high pressure system over the Pacific, and then that'll cause the jet stream to kind of get wavy over the northeast continent where we are, and as that kind of goes through. It kind of has this low pressure system over the kind of the Midwest, and then the jet stream will go up over the Northeast where we are, and greatly affects our winter weather.
And I'm so glad that you're mentioning this because many people have noticed that, in October and even November, the weather was a lot warmer than we're used to. Is this somehow an effect of La Nina?
So it's not, no. So we're actually not technically in a La Nina yet. We are in a La Nina watch. So we do expect La Nina to emerge in the next couple of months. We're watching those cooler than normal temperatures are occurring, but it needs to happen over a 3 month average to be officially in those conditions. So that's something we expect to kind of emerge over winter and affect our winter weather. But as far as this fall, that was something different. We had a high pressure stuck right over the Northeast, led us to these really warm and dry conditions.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I know that with everything that's going on with the weather, sometimes there's overlapping and things can be so confusing. So thank
Yeah.
you for, clarifying that. Now, the NOAA predicts New York City will have a warmer than normal temperature between December 2024 and February 2025. Can you explain, maybe why we're seeing this and how either, La Nina or El Nino could be affecting that?
Sure. So La Nina can make our winters in part of the Northeast region a little bit warmer. So that was looked at for that forecast that was put out. But a lot of this forecast, really, the temperature forecast was dependent on long-term trends because La Nina at this point is expected to be weak and doesn't affect our temperatures quite as much as precipitation here. And we have those long-term trends that really were a major factor in those above normal temperatures.
Now, kind of focusing on New York City a little, have there been any notable examples of La Nina events that significantly impacted our NYC weather?
Yeah, so we were also in a La Nina last winter, and we were very had a very mild winter. Not much snowfall, but above normal temperatures. So we don't have to look too far in the back to see that we can be affected by that in our winter.
Now, how does La Nina influence hurricane activity, and what does that mean for New York City residents?
Sure. So the ENSO patterns can affect hurricanes, and basically it has to do with wind shear. So when there's different kind of patterns in those global circulations, if there's more shear in the tropics, it's harder for those hurricanes to kind of persist and get up to our area. If there's less shear, then it's more likely that those hurricanes can move on. Now that will be over kind of the summer and fall. So currently, because we are in ENSO neutral, that wasn't an impact on our current season very much.
Now, how do meteorologists track and predict the influence of La Nina on the city's seasonal outlook?
Sure. So as far as like the ENSO itself, they're looking at those sea surface temperatures and and a lot of other like the depths. How deep are those cool temperatures going? How strong are those anomalies? Is it really below normal or is it close to normal? So really watching how those sea surface temperature changes are emerging, as far as how strong the ENSO will be. But also as far as here, in the northeast part of the region and in the Bronx, looking at the strength of the La Nina, and then looking at what else is going to impact the region. So if we're looking at a weak La Nina, that may mean that those impacts are a little bit less. There has been some research that during a weak La Nina, the Northeast actually sees more snowfall, but that's not for the entire region. That's kind of seen more in parts of New England. I'm not sure if that trend is so significant in the Bronx, but a lot of times we will see kind of towards the south part of our region kind of drier conditions. So I think that's something that we could see this winter for the Bronx is if we miss out on a lot of that precipitation coming through, then that could be dry, which is not great because that part of the region is already seeing drought conditions right now. So it would be great to see some winter precipitation to alleviate those conditions.
Now, how might climate change interact with La Nina events?
Yeah, so as far as how they affect them forming and things like that is an area of research. It's so complicated and how those form. So that's definitely something that's being looked at. But climate change, of course, does affect our weather. And that's, like I said, the long term trends were a big part of the winter temperature outlook. And those long term trends are impacted by climate change.
Now, how does La Nina typically affect global weather patterns?
So the global weather patterns that we see is we'll see a strong high pressure system over the Pacific, and then we'll see a kind of a high or yeah, another high low pressure over the kind of the Midwest of the U.S. and then a high pressure in the southeast U.S., which is why they tend to stay kind of dry and warm because they've got that high pressure down there, and that jet stream kind of splits and goes around those, and so that is really how it affects those the global circulation pattern is it's affecting the jet stream.
Now, I think that this is such an interesting topic because whether you're a climatologist or a meteorologist, all of us, we kind of interact with the weather every day.
Mhm.
And even if we don't know what's going on, we kind of see some of the changes. What would you tell somebody who may be interested to understand, what's going on with the weather around them? What could they do to understand this a little bit more?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of online resources. the Northeast Regional Climate Center, we have a page that we dedicated just to La Nina. So there's some graphics and some videos. You can learn more about it. I also love the National Weather Service. They put out great forecasts, and I really rely on them, especially going for the short-term outlooks. Short-term forecasts to see what the next week is going to be and looking to them. And they have great tutorials on their websites as well to explain kind of the different weather phenomena.
And I want to mention, kind of bringing it back to New York, we've recently kind of had a drought. Can you explain how La Nina may have affected that, if at all?
Yeah, so La Nina hasn't really had an impact on the drought to date. It could have an effect on the drought depending on how this winter plays out. So yeah, the drought has been pretty significant this fall. There's been a lot of wildfires and impacts that we've seen because of that. So we are hopeful for some winter reprieve that we'll get some precipitation to help with that. And so La Nina may or may not bring that. Sometimes we can get a lot of storm systems that track through the area that would bring some needed precipitation. But if those go a little bit north of us and we get that drier pattern that we see in the southeast New York, then it wouldn't be beneficial.
Well, I just want to add, I think this is super interesting and I would love to learn more. What is the most interesting fact that you've learned about La Nina, throughout your study?
I think it's just, that we're so interconnected globally. We talk about something that's happening in the Pacific and how it changes our weather here on the eastern US. And so I think, that is the really interesting part, that even though something happens in another part of the globe, that we are all connected and it affects different parts.
Now, how can public awareness and forecasting help mitigate the impacts of La Nina on urban populations?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as impacts is whether it's going to be storminess or continued drought, that awareness is really the best thing. So realizing, okay, when we're dry, maybe we don't need to water our lawns, things like that. And then as far as watching for if we are going to get some of those coastal storms coming up, to be prepared for those.
Well, Jessica, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Again, this was a really interesting conversation, and I've learned a little bit, already, and it's definitely something that I want to continue learning about more because, as I mentioned, so many of us are noticing, just some weather changes, and even if we don't know what's going on, we know that it's happening. So, once again, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me.
We'll be right back with more Open right after this.
Hey Creative Family, my name is Timothy Coleman and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Welcome back. The New York Community Trust has been working with Urban Health Plan for over 20 years to create healthier communities in the Bronx. The most recent grant, made in late 2023, will help provide coordinated comprehensive care for the elderly in the Bronx. Joining me now to discuss this relationship is the Deputy Vice President for Grants at the New York Community Trust, Irfan Hasan, and the President and CEO of Urban Health Plan, Paloma Izquierdo-Hernandez. Thank you both so much for joining me. Now, Irfan, can you tell me a little bit more about the New York Community Trust and, just the work that they've been doing over the past couple of years in, assisting New Yorkers?
Sure. Thank you, Gibby. The New York Community Trust is the community foundation for New York City, Westchester, and Long Island. And our goal at its core is to make New York better for all New Yorkers. So that includes everything from improving and addressing climate, to looking at healthcare, to looking at services for children, improving the systems that make New York a good place to live.
Now, this year, residents of New York City are empowered to vote on causes to receive $3 million in grants. What inspired this move towards participatory grant making?
Sure. So we are 100 years old this year, and that is, I think, something to celebrate. And as we start our second century, we wanted to hear from New Yorkers about the issues that are important to them. Via a code, New Yorkers can vote for issues that they think are critical, be it mental health, improving the nonprofit sector, strengthening democracy, addressing homelessness. These are all issues that our grants support, and we want to know what the priorities are for New Yorkers.
Now, how do you think it will impact the future of community-driven philanthropy?
Community-driven philanthropy is really about making sure that we address the needs of the community through the resources that we have, that we've received from generous New Yorkers who've cared about New York. So to me, it is just the best way to do things, is talk to the people who are going to be impacted and affected and benefiting, and hear from them where the needs are.
Thank you. Now, Paloma, can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the work Urban Health Plan does to help the community?
Sure. So Urban Health Plan, and one, thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning, especially with such a good friend and a good partner. So Urban Health Plan is a federally qualified community health center. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary right now, and we provide healthcare services, mostly primary care, because we really believe that primary care and prevention is critically important to improving the health of the communities that we serve. We also provide subspecialty care, oral health, dentistry, behavioral health, and then we provide a bunch of services that are related to health and that support the well-being of New Yorkers. So we have a workforce development center. We have created special clinics for special populations, such as the elderly. We have an adolescent health and wellness center. We also founded a charter school, because we really believe that in order to improve the health of our communities, there are other things than just health care that really affect them.
Now, my next question is for the both of you, and Irfan, we'll start with you. As mentioned, this is a 20-year partnership, kind of really making a difference in the Bronx. Can you explain what's the secret, or, what is that key to having such a successful partnership?
I think there are two things that go into any partnership, and this partnership is no different. It is trusting your partner and making sure that each partner brings the best of their game to the partnership. What we bring is a passion for making New York better, and we bring some resources in the form of grants. I can let Paloma speak to what Urban Health Plan brings, but what I think they bring is a strong commitment to improving health in the Bronx and beyond, and not just a commitment, but the knowledge and capacity, and again, the trust in the community. And that has helped us do some good things together.
Amazing. And then for you?
So I agree with everything that he said, and I think that it really does evolve around trust and trusting each other and believing in similar values, so that we're both committed to the same things. And I do think that understanding that philanthropy, especially foundations, should be seen as investors in programs and in initiatives that could really be sustained over the long haul and just not be supported by them, right? So the investments that that the trust has made at Urban are long-standing ones and ones that have continued to survive and thrive. And I think that that's part of what makes the partnership so great, that they also view us as a good source of investment, that they know that we're going to continue to use that investment in ways that replicates and duplicates the services that we provide.
Now, I also want to mention that it's been such a long time. So as time goes on, people, they evolve and their needs change. In what ways have you realized that the needs for the community that you're serving has evolved and changed over time?
For me, as a health provider, I think the biggest aha moment I had was that our quality of care is really good. We have really good outcomes for our patients. And one day I realized that people's lives were not all that different, even though their health outcomes were different. And it just dawned on me that beyond just providing health care, it was time to look at what were some of the other drivers that existed in people's lives that contributed to their health. And so thus our expansion to workforce, to education, to financial, economic power, and those kind of things.
Now, I understand the PACE program was a critical part of, the work that you were doing to assist elderly New Yorkers. Can you tell me a little bit more about that program?
Sure. So we actually started serving pediatric population, the adult population. And then we started seeing that within the adult population, there's an older population. And we started providing, with some help from another partner, some case management services. And then we realized that maybe the elderly population would be better served by a clinic all on its own. And so we developed what is called the Center for Healthy Aging. And it is a clinic that focuses on individuals over 80, not 65, because 65-year-old is not old anymore. So over 80, people who are neurologically or cognitively impaired. And we now serve well over 1,500 patients in that particular clinic. And then we recognized that there was a need for medical home visiting, so that there were some homebound patients that couldn't come to the clinic because of their age, the frailty of their conditions. And so we started doing some medical home visits at home. And then we looked and said, well, what's left for this community, this population that we've served for 50 years, right? There's some patients who have been with us all this time. And there's a program called PACE, which is a program for the all-inclusive care of the elderly. And we thought, why not do that? And so we reached out to the trust to see how they could help in the planning and the development of that program.
And that's amazing. And I want to take a moment to kind of highlight the trust. Urban Health Plan is just one of many organizations that you work with. Can you just tell us, what the experience has been like, knowing that you can help so many different organizations and reach so many different people through these organizations in NYC?
So I think it is difficult because New York has close to 25,000 nonprofits, all of whom doing amazing work. I think we try to find partners and support projects that are looking to improve the systems. And as Paloma described with the services for older adults, that's a game-changing way of caring for our elders. So those are the sorts of thinking that go into as we think about what organizations the Trust can support to make New York better.
Now, when you look back on the Trust's history, what do you hope to see in terms of its long-term impact on the communities that it serves, especially in areas like health, affordable housing, and workforce development?
Well, I think these are all issues that have had a long-standing tail and will probably need to be addressed in different ways as we go forward. Part of our vision, our vision work that we're asking New Yorkers to contribute to respond to and tell us where we should go with our work is to help us kind of focus on where do we think are the biggest needs in the next few years, and how do we look to resource that and make and address those needs in a meaningful way.
Now, I kind of want to talk about, as we're kind of approaching, the new year, start thinking a little bit early, but, what are some goals for the upcoming year that the Trust may have?
Well, we would like to start off 101 with a strong commitment to New York. We believe that our areas of work, be it in early childhood to older adults to housing to health, are all things that make New York better. So I would say it is recommitting to making sure that New York is a place that everybody can thrive in and everybody can enjoy life in.
And Paloma, we have about a minute left, but if you could just tell us, maybe what are some goals that your organization has for the upcoming year?
I think we have lots of goals as we enter our 51st year. One is to make sure that patients have timely access to care. I think that that's vitally important. When you talk about access to health care, you could talk about health insurance, which I think has become more available since the Affordable Care Act. However, now with Medicaid recertifications, there are a lot of people dropping off the rolls. So there should be really an effort in making sure that people who didn't certify get certified. I believe there's something like 500,000 people who could still lose their Medicaid coverage. So that's important, because if you don't have insurance coverage, that's vitally important. But then when you have the insurance, how accessible are services?
Right.
And that's really where timeliness comes in, because you could have access, but when? And so really focusing on those kind of things that really make a difference in people's lives, I think is really important. And really focusing on primary care and prevention, because I think not only will you get good quality outcomes, but you'll get lower costs in the healthcare system. And I think everyone will be healthier in the long run.
Well, with that, I want to thank you both so much for joining us. It was so nice to have you back and to learn about, your partnerships that you're doing to help make, New York a better place. So thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To learn more about the New York Community Trust efforts to empower New Yorkers to help shape their future grant making in 2025, please visit the website on the screen below. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this.
.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. The Kingsbridge Heights Community Center provides resources to empower Bronx residents from cradle to career to advance education and well-being for a vibrant community. Currently, they are helping support those in need with their winter coat and toy drives, both of which is going on until December 16th. Joining me now to speak more about their efforts is their Director of Adult Services, Alex Martinez. Alex, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the Kingsbridge Community Center?
Yes, absolutely. So Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, KHCC, is a settlement house here in the Bronx. We're neighbors, actually. And we just turned 50 this year, and we've been providing services, as you said, from cradle to career. So we have programs and services available from infants all the way into adulthood.
Now, there's a lot going on in the Bronx, especially in the Kingsbridge community. How do you address the specific needs, of the community at a certain time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think our current drives speak to that. And so because we are so embedded in the community, we really are informed by community needs. And so some of our programs have been around for years and years, and the need continues, especially when I think about like our youth services, our therapy programs, but we also pivot, right, based on what's happening. And so I would say from COVID to now, we've seen a bigger need for more like basic needs around food, housing, winter coats, and toys for the holiday season.
Well, we're definitely going to get into, the holiday drives because that is always, a staple of New York City. And it's something that we do really well when it's time to help out the community. But I want to talk about some of KHCC's key programs. Can you tell me what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of programs, but they primarily fall under three main departments. And so we have our early childhood department, and those are our programs and services for families who have children under the age of 5. So like our family child care network, our early Head Start classes, and then we have our youth department, which includes after school programming, college preparedness, our tween and teen centers, social emotional learning for our young people. And then we have our adult and family services, which includes our ESOL classes for adults. It includes our food pantry, our long-term therapy program, and our case management program.
Well, I definitely want to point out that I love that there was a section for tweens because I think they're kind of like a forgotten little area. Like you're not quite 8 years old, but you're not a teenager yet. So I think it's amazing that you're kind of even looking into those smaller, just fractions of different identities and where people are at life. I think that's amazing. And I also want to talk about your efforts to address food insecurity with the food pantries. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you noticed in regard to food insecurity specifically within this community?
Yeah, absolutely. So our food pantry really grew out of the need for stable food, especially from COVID to now. I think prior to COVID, our food pantry was really small and more donation based. We would get folks who would want to donate like extra canned food and things like that. But from COVID to now, our food pantry has grown exponentially. And right now we are really fortunate that we have enough funding to be able to have our food pantry run twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's open to the community. So folks in the community can sign up through the Plentiful app in advance if they want to, but you can show up any Tuesday or Thursday, register on the spot, and leave with enough food for your household. It includes fresh produce, dry goods, and then also some form of protein. So we typically, I would say on average, on any given Tuesday or Thursday, we see about 250 folks, and it's first come, first serve. So usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, our center's really busy because the line will kind of go down the block. Last Thursday, we had our Thanksgiving event, and we served about 600 families, and it included turkeys, chicken, or pernil, so whatever was the best choice for folks.
Wow, that's amazing. And to hear that number of people, are coming in daily, it shows that there's a need. So thank you so much for kind of providing that support to the families here in Kingsbridge. I think that's amazing. And, just throughout the Bronx in general. Now, I want to talk about the winter coat drive. Can you tell us a little bit more about that effort to support those in need?
Absolutely. So our winter coat drive, this is, I think, the third year that we've done it consecutively. And again, it comes out of need. So we work with really high need, vulnerable families, and especially this time of year where we're transitioning into colder weather, we'll sometimes hear that they don't have coats, winter coats, right? Or especially for children that they've outgrown the ones from last year, and those can be expensive. And so for some of our most struggling families, it's really an urgent need. And so this year we're really lucky to have interns on our team, social work interns, who kind of took that on as their project and have been securing coats. So we're collecting new coats and gently worn ones as well to be able to provide them to families during our holiday event next month.
So that's amazing. I was just going to ask, if people are listening and watching, is this mostly a volunteer led effort?
Yeah, so our case management team is leading the effort as well, but all of the donations are coming from community members. So folks are able to come and drop them off directly at our center. We've had a couple banks kind of host their own drives and donate those as well. But yeah, it's definitely coming from the community for the community.
That's amazing. Now, how long are you accepting donations?
Until the 16th, December 16th, our event will be a couple days after that, so we want to make sure to have enough time to sort and organize everything.
Now, I know winter coats are definitely important, but my favorite thing, especially during this time of year, are the toy drives. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how your organization kind of handles that?
Yes, so our organization has been doing toy drives for years and years. And so, like you said, it's a lot funner to both receive those donations, but also give them. And right now, we're actually we've been receiving a lot of coats, which is great because our families definitely need them. But we are needing a little bit more toys at this point of the month. And so for us, it'll be a joint event. And so families can come, the kiddos can pick out their own toy, and then parents can go through the coat drives and pick out coats if they need them.
Now, I understand on the flyer there's a QR code. Can you explain, where that goes to?
Oh, yes. So we have two different flyers, one for the coat drive and one for the toy drive. And so the toy drive includes a QR code, and that will take you to our Amazon wish list. And so if folks are able to and wanting to donate, they can scan the QR code. It goes directly to that list, and then folks can purchase the toys on Amazon and have them delivered straight to our center.
Now, how has the feedback been from the community, regarding these events? And, just throughout that process, can you sense that, feeling of support?
Absolutely. A lot of our families are incredibly grateful that we offer these types of concrete needs, especially this time of year, because it can make the difference between really joyous memories for families or really difficult ones. And so oftentimes we hear from families a lot of gratitude, a lot of appreciation. It's really it's something that they feel very just really like a lot of compassion. And so especially this time of year where folks are appreciating and expressing gratitude and also giving back. And so this is a really beautiful way to do that. One of our parents recently was asked what her experience at our center has been like. And she said that prior to coming and receiving services, her wings were clipped. But all of the impact now makes her feel like a butterfly, and she's just soaring. And so I think for some of our families, this is what makes their holiday season feel a little bit more celebratory. And we're really appreciative that community responds to that and is willing to give back.
Now, switching gears only slightly, what do you think are the most pressing issues faced by the Kingsbridge Heights community that need to be addressed urgently?
Oh goodness, there are definitely many, and so I think the first one that comes to mind is around mental health services. We're really lucky that we are able to offer free long-term therapy to families impacted by trauma, but we've also recently opened up a new clinic that expands our capacity to provide services throughout the Bronx. However, the wait list is still really difficult to keep up with. We get calls from folks interested in services or in need of therapy, especially because we have bilingual folks available, therapists, and so we have a lot of Spanish-speaking families as well in need of therapy, and they're willing to be added on our wait list, but it's really challenging to keep up with because the wait list continues to grow, and I can imagine that that's an indicator of just the growing mental health needs throughout New York City.
Now, kind of keeping that in mind, what are some resources that your organization needs to help continue to support the community of Kingsbridge?
Absolutely. So definitely funding. We definitely need more money to grow these programs and hire more passionate, therapists and social workers and youth workers. And I think also we need to, at least for our center specifically, space. We are really creative and share a lot of space between programs, but I think that's something that day to day we do feel.
Now, I want to briefly talk about KHCC Connect. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, I oversee that program, so I can talk to you forever about it. But that is our case management program. And so every family comes to our center for different reasons, right? It might be for an early Head Start class or for English classes or our food pantry. And so regardless of entry point into KHCC, the KHCC Connect team ensures that all of those families are assessed holistically and connected to any other services or programs that they might be interested in or in need of. And so they really help connect folks to everything that they are seeking, whether it's offered directly at KHCC or not.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about any volunteer opportunities? Because I understand that a lot of this, takes a community effort. So are there any opportunities for the community to get involved?
Yes, so there are definitely volunteer opportunities. It depends on what the volunteer interest need is. I know the easiest way to volunteer is second Saturdays, and so every second Saturday of the month, our organization has some kind of garden volunteer opportunity depending on time of year and need, and so it can be cleaning out we have a community garden where anyone in the community can come and plant and grow, and so they can clean those plots out, they can plant new things, they can trim. I'm not a gardening expert by any means, but I do know that that's something that anyone in the community can come the second Saturday and volunteer directly with them.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit more about the KHCC community and the work that you're doing to help, members in this area of the Bronx. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
To learn more about their efforts, please go to their website at khcc-nyc.org. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open right after this. Welcome back. In 2023, 9,462 pedestrians were injured in an accident with a motor vehicle, resulting in 94 deaths in New York City. Of that number, 1,383 pedestrians injured, including 16 fatalities, were in the Bronx alone. It is because of these kinds of incidents that AARP New York started the Taking It to the Streets Improving Pedestrian Safety in Your Community. The project aims to empower pedestrians and community groups to address the issue of sidewalk safety. Join me in studio is the State Director for AARP, Beth Finkel. Beth, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about AARP New York?
Well, let's see, there's so much to tell. AARP, you know, is a not-for-profit. We are a membership organization for people that are 50 and older, although younger people are joining our ranks all the time, which we love. And for the most part, we work on advocacy and public policy, community service, and education and outreach.
Now, I think this initiative is amazing. Just as a New Yorker, I've seen some of this myself, but can you tell me a little bit more about taking it to the streets and this effort to improve pedestrian safety in the community?
Well, AARP has realized for a long time that it is time for pedestrians and other people besides just motor vehicles to take back the streets. The streets in New York and pretty much across the country were originally built to accommodate cars, maybe originally horse and wagons, but they were really never developed with the thought of pedestrians particularly in mind. And it's so important that we do that. And it's not just for older people. You know, if you're taking a baby stroller out, you know what I'm talking about. If you have little children on bicycles, if you are walking with a shopping cart, or just plain walking, this city can be a very dangerous place to cross the street.
Now, I kind of mentioned some numbers, as we started this, but can you tell me a little bit more about, just that intense need to address New York sidewalk, safety and the issues that we've been seeing?
Well, just think about it. I mean, I know when I cross the street in my neighborhood, it's so tense because you never know if the curb cut is going to be there. You never know if the curb cut is going to be repaired. You never know if the crosswalks are going to be painted sufficiently. And you really don't know if you can really get across the street. Even though they give you that light count in many intersections, you still don't know if you can get across. And if you are on a big boulevard, and the Bronx has many beautiful boulevards, can you get to that center island? Or in fact, is there even an accessible center island for you to be able to stand on safely?
Now, I want to talk about something that I've been seeing, and it was just, with the rise of scooters and motorbikes, some of them are actually on the sidewalk. Does this initiative kind of address, some smaller things and issues like that?
So this initiative is about having people in their own communities identify intersections they are personally concerned about. And so the idea is that they take this survey, which you can get from downloading, and it takes 10 minutes. You don't have to be a traffic engineer to do it. I've done it many times, and you basically go out with this and you check the boxes of what you're concerned about. There's also an open place to add more. So back to your concern about cyclists, yes, I think we all know, and especially for older people, it can be very disconcerting because the cyclists come literally out of nowhere. You think you've checked where you're going, you think you're safe, and then whoosh, I mean, they just come out of nowhere. And as someone who's actually was hit by a bicyclist wow. and had a broken collarbone from it, I totally get the concern. But there are rules on the books. I think that what we need to look at there is enforcement, because from what I hear from people in the community, there's very little enforcement of those laws.
Now that kind of goes back to my next question. When did the program begin, and since then, what has the response been like?
So we started this, we kicked it off on November 14th, and actually, we've had a few rain days in between, which we're glad for those rain days, so we've actually extended it to December 6th. And so all across New York State, literally Long Island, New York City, up through Westchester, all the way up to Plattsburgh, all the way west to Buffalo, we've got hundreds of people coming out in these few weeks to do their own assessment. And that's why I'm so happy to be on today to ask the people in the Bronx, because I know you're concerned about pedestrian safety. You gave those data points in the Bronx, which are not good. And so we really want to make sure that people get out there, pull down that survey, take back their streets and sidewalks, take back their intersections.
And I want to kind of preface or just kind of highlight the term walk audit. Can you explain, what that means and, what people will be doing in that?
Sure. So again, you pull down this survey and print it out, or you can fill it out online, either way. But I think it's easier to pull it down, print it, and walk out there with it. And literally, it will ask you, can you cross the street with the light timed the way it is? Are the lines easily, can you see the lines? Are the curb cuts? Are there curb cuts at all? Are there two curb cuts? Because you really need one on either. Sometimes we're finding that they're putting them in the middle, which is not always as comfortable and safe for pedestrians. But there's a myriad of other things to be looking at. Are the sidewalks choppy? I mean, how often do we see cracks? Do we see actual slabs of the concrete coming up? Which is so dangerous. And of course we know older people are very concerned about falls, and it's so easy to fall and trip on these. So that's another. But there's, I forgot the number of check boxes, and then at the end, you'll actually be able to score your intersection.
Wow.
You can give them a grade.
Now, I want to talk about another community that this affects, and these are people who are disabled. How can they kind of get involved and help this initiative?
Absolutely. I mean, in many of the places that we've been, we either have had people who are in wheelchairs or using walkers actually perform the actual survey themselves or with a friend. But you can also reach out and ask your friends or neighbors, if you are, to please do it. Maybe pull it down and print it and hand it to them and ask them to go and check it out. But even in places that we have not been able to have someone in a wheelchair, in some communities they are actually taking an empty wheelchair and walking it across because they want to experience what it means to be in the position of somebody who's disabled and what those challenges and barriers are. Because one of the things about New York City in particular and the Bronx is that we are walkable communities. And the New York Department of Transportation has done a great job of updating many intersections. But they are very willing to hear from the public, to hear about other intersections that the public is concerned about. And AARP is in a great position to gather that information and deliver it back to DOT.
Now, I know we talked about older New Yorkers and those who may have disabilities, but why is this something that, maybe even a teenager should care about, or, somebody who may be a little bit younger? Why is this something that they should also take part in?
Well, I'm sure that even if you're someone who's younger, you know someone who has either been hit by a car or came really close. I mean, many of us come really close almost every day. And all of us have family and neighbors that we care about. So it's for yourselves, because this is about all age groups. This is New York at its best, the Bronx at its best, being age-friendly to all ages. And we're all in it together, right? And we all need to take back our streets together.
Exactly. And I also think that since we're a city that people like to go out, get exercise, remain active, bike riders, skateboarders, these are people that could also be affected by this. So I think for sure, this is something that everybody should be on board with. Now, is this the first time AARP has done something like this? And if not, what were some of the outcomes from the last time?
So we have done this in different communities, like at one-shot deals, but we realized that we really need to come together. We need to make sure that our local officials are informed about these concerns and that we can do it in a data-driven way, because that's what policymakers respect, right? If you can come to them with data, then they're very respectful of trying to figure out solutions to this. And again, this is at the county level, this is at the city level, but it's also at the state level. So we are also sharing this information with our state representatives, both our assembly members and our state senators. We're going to share it with Bronx Borough President Vanessa. We're sharing it with all the county execs that we're going to come in contact with, and also with, as I said before, Department of Transportation, which is participating not just here in New York City, but across the state. New York State Office for the Aging is participating all across New York State. New York State Department of State is participating all across the state. So we've got some great partners and local organizations that are participating, and just want to encourage everybody else. We all own our streets. And so we need to take back some control over that.
Now, I am so glad that you talked about some of our elected officials, because I wanted to know, after, people, do the walk audit and they kind of do the assessment, what is the next step? How can they ensure that, what they did, they will see the outcome of that?
Well, again, once you download that survey and you fill it out, then you can upload it back to us. We're going to aggregate all that great data. We're going to share it with the New York State Assembly, New York State Senate, because again, they've got a lot of purse strings, right? And they can make things happen. But we're also going to be sharing it with county execs and local Department of Transportation, and your own city council person. City council people are so tied to the community, right? And they want to hear this stuff because that's the way they can go and advocate for their own communities. So again, because we'll have the data, because everyone will get together and get this in. And by the way, we've already collected quite a number of them, and we're very excited. Yep. And so the more the better. And then we'll give grades. As I said, you can give it to your intersection that you fill out. Give them an A, B, C, or D, or an F. I hope not. But we will do an aggregate report like that and share it with all levels of government.
Now, this is an amazing initiative, and what I love about it most is that it shows that you don't have to just accept the way things currently are. Mm-hmm. There are things, because I noticed that maybe in my community, people have a lot of ideas and thoughts, but they think that there's nothing that they can do. I love that this gives people the option to kind of take charge, so that's amazing. With that, how do you see this fitting in with, AARP's other initiatives, to kind of help better the communities, around New York City?
I'm glad you asked that. So yes, AARP is, our really like our main thing is to make sure that as people age, they can make the decisions that they want to make. And so that, when we talk about livable communities, right, it's hard to make those decisions if you don't have affordable housing, if you don't have transportation available to you, if your pedestrian safety is in jeopardy, if you can't make the health care decisions that you want to make because you don't have access to good health care. I mean, there's just so many areas that if you, economic security. And so one of the things that we do, and I know this is more local here in the Bronx, but I think the main thing that people need to remember about AARP is we are 38 million people strong. We are in the halls of Congress all the time. And when it comes to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, there's nobody fighting harder for all of us on those things in AARP.
Well, with that, Beth, thank you so much for joining us and telling us a little bit more about the work you're doing to make sure, we have a safer country for everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
To learn more about their efforts to address sidewalk safety, please go to the website on the screen below. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch our brand new episode of Open with Darren Hymie on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.